This one is the most intriguing of all the defensive positions to me.
Yep.
Because I think everybody could agree, based on last year's performance, this is the group that needed to improve the most and needed help the most. But I'm going to say something here. Well, first I'm going to read people listed right now on the roster right now, which I know that can change. I don't think it will with the defensive back room, but I know it could. But people listed on the roster right now that will be playing this fall. Listen to the experience and depth of age in this group. I'm just going to go number order down the roster here. Danico Slaughter, senior. Jalen McCullough, either 5th or 6th year senior.
Yeah.
D. Williams, senior, which that one still baffles me how he never even really stepped on the field last year as a defensive back. Warren Burrell, redshirt senior. Kamal Haddon, redshirt senior. Brandon Turnage, redshirt senior. Let's see. Gabe Judy Lawley, redshirt senior. Tamarian McDonald, senior. Wesley Walker, redshirt senior. Christian Charles, junior. Andre Turrentine, redshirt sophomore, so essentially a junior. And then from that point forward, you get, freshman, redshirt freshman, that kind of thing. Here's my opinion on this. As we think about last year, I mean, in the system that we know Tennessee runs most frequently, there's going to be 5 defensive backs on the field at all times. Now, of those 5, so it has to be a deep room. It has to be, because you got to have people out there. As we saw last year, you get injuries at 2 or 3 or 4 spots, because at one point they had like 4 or 5 injuries with their starters. You end up with walk-ons playing in the most important defensive drive of the season as Alabama's marching down the field to kick a go-ahead field goal that thankfully they missed. We had a walk-on at safety in that for that series, that drive. But I'm going to go back to what what's the guy's name? Oh my goodness. Jimmy Dykes. So Jimmy Dykes said this at the beginning, the very first game of the year in the basketball season this year. It was the Colorado game, Tennessee against Colorado. And he said, Tennessee is a whole year older, but he's like, listen, just because you're 1 year older doesn't mean you're 1 year better. And I was like, man, booyah. He just hit the nail on the head. Just because you're older doesn't mean you're better. So here's my opinion on this. There should not be. I mean, how many people did I just mention that were either a junior, a senior, or a redshirt senior? I mean, my goodness, 10 or 11? I mean, it was like tons of them. So nobody, I would be very curious to see if any other SEC team has that many people in their secondary that are seniors or redshirt seniors or even 6th-year seniors. I'd be very curious to see that. No one should be able to throw the ball in Tennessee like they were last year. But here's the thing. It's still the same guys back there. So have they gotten better? That's the question. And I mean, that to me is going to be the single biggest question that we answer this fall. Now, I do want to answer John's question real quick because I think he's just asked a really good question. So do you guys think we'll be much better at cornerback, specifically at corner? Okay. Yes, no doubt about it. And I'm going to explain why. Safety? I don't know. Here's why I'm going to say confidently yes at corner. His name's Gabe Judy Lawley. He was as far as like Rustin found this stat last year or a few months ago when Gabe transferred, of the 290 something possible cornerbacks in the country, in defensive pass efficiency, he was ranked 92nd out of almost 300 guys.
And it was only the 300 who qualified. There's way more than that. It was the top 300 corners in the country. He was number 92.
I mean, he can legit play. He can legit play. And so I am very, very excited to see what he's able to do. The other corner is going to be Danico Slaughter. I'll be shocked if it's not. We saw last year, the last 2 games of the season, when there were so many injuries in the defensive secondary, Danico, who was normally, they call it the star in Tennessee's defense, everybody else call it nickel probably. Danico had been playing that star position. He was forced to move over to corner because they just didn't have any other people out there. Like, they had no one else. And man, he showed up big time. That was a really nice thing to see last year, was Danico, how well he succeeded at corner. He played a tremendous game. I mean, we all think back to the Kentucky game. He had a beautiful interception down the sideline on Will Levis. Then the Vanderbilt, and especially in the Orange Bowl, he showed that he was claiming a spot at corner. And so I think if the first 2 corners that trot out on the field this year are going to be Danico Slaughter and Gabe Jeudy-Lally, and that's a really good duo. I feel very comfortable with that duo. It's a safety that I'm very concerned on. Well, not very concerned, but that I think there are more question marks. For example, Jalen McCullough, is he a 6th-year senior?
Yeah,
5th year.
He's a super senior.
That's what I thought. So Jalen's a 6th-year senior. But is he going to be better than he was last year? I mean, just because you're 1 year older doesn't mean you're 1 year better. They need him to be better than he was last year. What they really need is for Jalen McCullough to have a Theo Jackson type year that Theo had two seasons ago, where he ends up getting himself drafted because he just bursts onto the scene the way. I mean, my goodness, I remember the first 2 games of Theo Jackson's season 2 years ago. All of a sudden, it's like, whoa, dude is all over the place. And he was in the backfield making tackles in the backfield on, tosses to running backs and stuff. He came out of nowhere. And they need Jalen McCullough to have that kind of year this year. Big time. They really need him to really break out this year. And then at the other spot, you got, you have 2 other spots with the star and the other safety position. Is it going to be Wesley Walker? Is it going to be will Brandon Turnage be the star? Will it be Andre Turrentine or will it be Tamari McDonald? I mean, you have so many options. Hopefully somebody asserts themselves as the dude. My question is Jalen McCullough even going to be starting? I think he probably will be, but it'll be interesting to see if Wesley Walker and Tamari McDonald step up like, no, we got it. It'll be, or Andre Turrentine. I mean, there's so many questions back there. Apart from the corners, the other 3 spots, the 2 safeties and the star, there's so many questions. And of course, time will tell the answer. But I think that is the most intriguing part of the secondary talk. And man, I hope that all that experience really pays off for him.
So one thing we know about Willie Martinez, he loves to cross train. He loves to teach guys multiple positions. He likes to recruit guys that can play multiple positions, really for 2 reasons. Number one, it just creates natural depth. You can have your best players out there at all times when you need them, because they can play any position in the backfield. But the other thing it does, and they haven't shown this a lot because of just issues in the front in the past, it allows you to play a lot more man. And the reason it allows you to play a lot more man is you can start identifying the matchups you want, and you can alter your personnel to fit the matchups you want. So, for example, Tamarion McDonald is a pretty good cover guy, but he's nowhere near as good as Brandon Turnage. So if you decided you were going to go straight man under with one safety over the top, you're probably going to see more Brandon Turnage than Tamarion McDonald at the star because he can play man better. So I think what you're going to see is you're going to see a lot of guys. I was kind of stunned. I counted it up. They have 21 scholarship defensive backs. That's a lot. Typically it's around 18, 19. 21 means they made a concerted effort that they were going to go stockpile talent back there. I think the one thing that's interesting, if you look at the possible depth chart, they have 5, maybe 6 true freshman defensive backs that they may not need to step on the field at all. And so they may redshirt all of them. The other thing that's interesting, out of that 21 scholarship guys, only 5 of them absolutely have to graduate. So 16 of them at least are coming back next year, maybe 15, depending on what Gabe Jeudy-Lally does. But technically, 16 of the 21 could be back next year, even though they're an extremely veteran group. So, I know they're really excited about the young guys. The 6 freshmen are all just absolute dogs. They are versatile kids that can play multiple positions. You got guys like Jordan Matthews, Christian Conyer, Cameron Miller, John Slaughter, Jack Luttrell, Ricky Gibson Jr. Like, there's some dudes in that freshman class. But the absolute best thing that could happen is if all 6 of them could redshirt and the remaining 15 cover the 5 defensive secondary positions. But it may not even take that many. They might be able to get away with 11 or 12, because when you look at the depth chart, Tank McCullough is definitely going to be at one of the safeties. The other one is probably going to be Wesley Walker. Tamarion McDonald is probably going to be the star. And then, like you said, Jeudy-Lally and Danico Slaughter are probably going to be the corners. But Danico Slaughter can also play the star. Brandon Turnage can also play the star. Brandon Turnage can also play corner. Brandon Turnage can also play safety. So he can play multiple spots. Jordan Thomas.
We've seen him do that in his time at Tennessee so far.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he can do them all. Jordan Thomas is a year older and a year better. We're probably going to see him get more snaps at safety. Wesley Walker can play the star. You've got guys, you've got true corners in Warren Burrell and Kamal Haddon, that if they have an injury issue somewhere else, either one of those guys have played a lot of snaps. They can walk in, play the corner, and allow Danico Slaughter to slide over and help him one of the other slots. Christian Charles can play safety or corner. There's just a lot of versatility there. And I think we're going to see a lot of mixing and matching. I think you're going to see people changing in and out based on the coverage they're calling. I think you're going to see people changing in and out based on who they're covering. And that's Willie Martinez loves that. He loves having that versatility. To answer John's question, do I think that we'll be better at corner? Yes, because we're going to have one of the best pass rushes in the SEC. And secondaries are good if the defensive line is good. And our defensive line is one of the best in the country.
So welcome, the only 10 UC. I appreciate you joining us. They asked, I noticed that the corners don't play very physical in bump and run coverage. Is that due to personnel, or are they coached away from that? Okay, so I think I have an answer. What do you think, Rustin?
It's definitely personnel. They have not been comfortable with who they've had in the backfield. They've also been very injury riddled. And so, when you play a lot of bump and run, you twist a lot of ankles, you get little nicks and dings. And I think they've been concerned about depth. And so they've intentionally avoided playing man, but they've built the depth. They've definitely got the depth to do it now. So we should be seeing a lot more of that. And again, we've talked about the Keenan Peely quote. A couple weeks ago, he said this is one of the most aggressive defenses he's ever been a part of. Well, the only way you're aggressive is if you're playing a lot of man.
Yeah, that's right. That's a fantastic question. Thank you so much for asking that. That's an awesome question. And it's a great name as well. So we appreciate it very much. And I totally agree with Rustin. That makes a lot of sense. Thanks, guys. Anytime. Thank you so much for joining us. And I totally agree with Rustin. The reason, if you're going to play really tight bump and run man-to-man coverage, that means that your defensive line has to be living in the backfield, because you have to be getting pressure with the defensive line in order to be able to do that on the outside. And we have not been able to do that in, a lot of years, unfortunately, that we could say. I mean, we saw glimpses of it last year. The problem last year was that we had 6 defensive backs who weren't able to finish the season because they were injured.
Yep.
And so this year we have way more depth on defensive line than we've had in who knows how long. We have dudes that can get to the quarterback, we hope, based on what we saw last year, based on the guys we got coming in. So hopefully with the improved defensive line being able to get to the quarterback, that would allow the secondary to play more tight bump and run coverage, and we'll see an even better defense. I hope. That's the hope.